我先处理这样的事情，要不然五九那个位置有点尴尬。
边插也可以。152K。
走，还没有，不要。
哦，拿下去。赶快圈。
走。连帽器好像可以找。那个后退一点，后退。这单。
看这不是在干嘛？
你在？
卖队友卖爽。
我先开个波把他打一波给。啊。只是我今朝做哪些也包了
那我跟你讲，你直接撤到山上啊。
对啊，先包了再说。
撤到山上，你还可以打那个50 TP。
哎呦，那叫他多查些。对。
Hey guys, so here, and today I have for you a Pathfinder basic grapple guide. This is just basics, just basic grapples you pretty much need to know if you want to play Pathfinder in this game. Okay, so for the first grapple technique or tip that I'm going to be teaching you, it's called the Ferris wheel grapple. So you're going to see why it's called the Ferris wheel grapple, and this is why it's called the Ferris wheel grapple. Yeah, you pretty much just go up and you swing down, and kind of in the motion of a Ferris wheel. And before I teach you how to do this, if you're in the firing range and you don't want to wait that annoying cooldown every single time, like you mess up or keep on trying to learn it, just switch to a character, any character, and then switch back to Pathfinder, and the cooldown just totally goes back down to 0. So that's a really good tip, really good time-saving tip in the firing range. Anyways, to do this one, you're gonna want to try to find the maximum distance that you can go at. Of course, like, you don't have to sit there for a bit and try to find it. Eventually, you will learn the maximum distance and how to, like, on his grapple. And if you want to know, like, when you can grapple, it'll be this, like really yellow, grayish color whenever you can grapple onto something. And it'll be the blue whenever you can grapple onto something. Once you're just basically running, I'd recommend standing at first, because running is a bit harder to do it with. So start off with just standing, and the second you see the grapple hit the ground and connect to the ground, you're going to want to jump. And it should propel you upwards in the motion of a Ferris wheel, and it should look like this. And like I said, the second that your grapple makes contact with the floor and gets, like, connected to the ground, you're gonna want to jump like this. Now that one was a bit short, but you get the idea. Now for this one, the main mistakes I see people make is that, like I just did, like what I showed you, they do it a bit too short. So it's like this, and they do it way too short, and they don't get anywhere near what they can do. Like the max potential. They don't get anywhere near the max potential you can go with this. Or what I see people do is their timing is off. So instead of actually doing the Ferris wheel grapple where they go up in the sky, they just slam into the ground like that, and they don't go anywhere with it, and they just basically have to wait the cooldown until they can do it again. Now for tips on this one, it's really just a lot of practice that you have to do to learn like the maximum distance you can go. And if you just practice this enough, you should be able to do it almost every try. And that's like really the best tip I can give you for this one.
Maybe.
Okay, so on to the next one. If you just want to swing around an object and like get the most out of it that you can, like what a lot of Pathfinders do, you'd be surprised. They just go up here, they try to grab onto it, and they just end up just slamming into the object instead of actually going around it. And of course, we want to go around this object. We don't want to just slam right into it unless we actually want to get on top of it. But for this sake, let's say you're trying to get around it, you're trying to go around the left side of it. What you're going to want to do, whenever you grapple onto it, you're going to want to kind of look down and left and slowly ease your way up and kind of make a C, starting from the bottom with like your looking stick. You're going to want to look in a C while you're in the air, while grappling. And then the entire time while you're doing that, you're going to want to move left the entire time. And you're going to want to do these together, and it should look a little something like this. And if you're doing it right here, of course, if you just want to do it for the right side, you just do it going right instead. You'd make a C kind of going to the right, so a little curve going to the right, and then you just move your joystick or just move to the right, like this. So you're basically moving in the direction that you want to move around the object at. So like, of course, I want to move around the left side of the object, so you just move left and make a curve going to the left. Now on to the next one. Let's say I want to get on top of here. Like I want to get on top of these little panels up here. You'd be surprised by a lot of Pathfinders. They just straight up just grapple onto here and then just climb up. You get absolutely no boost or no movement towards this direction at all. All you're doing is just slowing yourself down by having to go through this little animation by climbing up here, and you're not even really going anywhere horizontally. All you're doing is going mainly up vertically, whenever you could be doing an entirely new different way of grappling up on top of here, and be going horizontally way further than you were before, and even taller, like more vertical than you were before. So what you do for this one, you're going to want to position yourself more below the object, and then basically you can just swing yourself up and around. So whenever you grapple, you're going to want to like be moving forward the entire time, which it should be in the opposite direction for the first part, and then you're going to want to track the path that you want to go. And of course, if you want to swing up and over this, you're gonna kind of do, you're gonna want to do the Ferris wheel grapple in a way, where you swing like up and over like that, and you're just gonna want to track that path with your movement stick as you're moving up, and you're gonna want to move forward the entire time.
Maybe.
Whenever you do it correctly, it's gonna look something like this. And as you can see from right there, I actually flung myself across every panel and actually through the hole right there. Which, that is a big difference from just straight up grappling right here and just climbing up on top of it, like a lot of you normally would. Now for the last one, in the Ferris wheel grapple we learned that whenever it's this grayish yellowish color on the crosshair, you can't really grapple onto anything. So let's say I want to get up here, don't have the zipline yet, I can't really just straight up grapple onto it, right? So what you're gonna do here is you're gonna find the pretty much the maximum distance you can grapple onto the object. So let's say it's right here, and you're gonna do basically what you did right here, and you can just grapple your way up. But for stuff like this, for the most part, you're just gonna be able to get on top of the object, and it should look something like this. Anyways, I will be coming out with a more advanced tutorial for this if you guys want that. And I'm also going to be coming out with a mobility kind of
我今天不打是因为今天我要等阿莫的更新，我现在没有要
any
打
fall。fatigue and stuff like that. Just how to get the most out of your mobility.
而且我要是很少打的话，你觉得我有可能把 T10点在277吗？公
Anyway,
差
that's
小
the，video. If
等
you
一下
liked it,
你就
like,
出来了，
subscribe, do all that.
我就出来都买
Want to see more videos like this?
可以
Yeah,
不
I
买
will
凯尔
see you
吗？
in the next one.
啊？
我不买凯尔吗？
There's no denying
Yeah,
movement is
yeah,
absolutely huge in
yeah,
Apex,
yeah.
and it's what it's well known for is its movement
Yeah,
mechanics
yeah,
and
yeah,
its
yeah.
movement system. Mastering that
对，要买
movement
的
can
时
be a
候发
whole
现
new
说啊，我
challenge,
不小心把这
especially
台车
on
列出
controller
来
and。especially on console. We're quite limited to doing
对
certain
，BD
things.
55也快
However,
练好
hopefully
了，
this guide will help you as I'm going to take you through
一大
plenty
堆。
of different techniques to help you master your movement on controller. Now, I will be covering basics here and also some more advanced techniques. So there will be a bit of everything hopefully for everyone in the guide. I will include timestamps in the video description if you want to skip ahead to anything. And I have got the hand cam on screen to hopefully make some things a little easier for those of you who might need a bit more of a visual aid. So before we actually get into any movement techniques, I just want to cover some controller settings. So there's a few things we can do to make movement a lot easier in Apex. And the first thing I recommend you do is on your crouch button setting that to hold. This is going to make things like bunny hopping and super gliding much easier, and just your overall strafing and moving around the map will just feel much nicer and much more fluid. Gives you more control, but there will be a few things to remember which I will point out as we go through the guide.
哦，曲剧，
If you're not
群
already,
聚
I highly recommend changing your button layout as
I
well.
don't sound
So
like-
unless you play Claw, I would highly recommend using Ninja or a custom
啊，不是啊，我
controller
怎么
setup.
人都冲下
Now, mine
去
at the minute, you can copy this
Sound
for
cool.
free if you
厉害，
want
厉害。
to. All I've done is I've switched my
有啊。
my jump to L1 and my
有啊。
crouch to the right stick.
这
This
蛮
just
好，
makes
但
it
他还有
much
直接
easier
都
for me.
都
And generally,
都没看着
it's only
差异
something
就
I've
好了。
recently switched to, but it's made my movement
不是啊，
much,
全部人都没有
much
被
nicer.
电
And
啊！
since doing so, it's allowed me a bit
That's
more
how I
fluidity with my bunny hops and my super jumps and zipline jumps and all that kind of stuff. Because it means I'm not having to play claw and try hit all the buttons correctly and all that kind of business. So choose as you wish, either Ninja or if you have back paddles as well, that's going to make things much easier, or a custom button layout. But having jump not on X is going to make things easier because you're able to use your right stick fairly well as well. So let's talk about the first movement technique, and it's all going to start from the top, the very basics, and this of course is going to be slide jumping. So I'm sure most of you already know this already. All we're going to do is we're going to run, and as soon as we hit maximum momentum, we're going to get into a slide and then jump out of it, and that is a slide jump. So if you are on hold for the crouch, you will need to keep hold of your crouch button while jumping. If you're on toggle and you just prefer that, you don't need to worry about that. You can just hit your crouch button and then jump at the end of it. So we're just going to run, slide and jump, and that is a slide jump. So the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be a bunny hop. Now you can make this easier by selecting Octane as your legend and using its stim. However, it is possible to do with any legend, and this is where hold is going to be vital. You're going to need to have your crouch on hold to do this. So if you do like playing on toggle, please try it out, because if you want a bunny hop, it has to be on hold. So all we're going to do is we're going to slide, we're going to do a slide jump, and then as we land back down, on the end of our slide, we're just going to jump again, as soon as we hear that noise that we're touching the ground. Now, you can do this in a straightforward line, but if you strafe, you actually keep more momentum. So I will show you. So we're going to run, we're going to slide jump, and we're just going to keep hopping as we hit the ground. So you keep a bit of that momentum, but then you come to a dead stop. So if we carry on this in a strafing movement, we will actually keep more of our momentum, and it means we can go on a lot longer. Say you need to evade danger. Now the important thing to remember with bunny hopping is you can't really do it uphill. It will completely stop your momentum. So we either do it downhill, or when we're getting away from enemies, trying to evade them and just strafing around a few corners. So all we're going to do is slide jump, and as we come to landing again the second time, we're just going to hop, and as we keep landing, we're just going to keep hopping and pressing our jump button while holding crouch. And as you can see with the strafe, we managed to hold more momentum and get around a little easier. Now, building on from bunny hopping, we can actually do bunny hop healing. but this is only with Octane. You used to be able to do it with any legend, but a good few seasons ago, and it's only now possible with Octane. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to nade myself and take some shield damage so I can show you this. So I'm just going to swap to Octane as well. So I've got the bat ready. And all we're going to do is the same thing as Bunny Hop. But when we go into the hop, as we come out and jump, we're going to hit heal, which for me is up on the D-pad. So I've got to do this a little weird. I've not actually really done this on L1 yet, so it's going to be interesting to see. But what we're going to do is we're going to run, slide jump, and then we're going to start hopping. And as we go into that first jump, we're going to hit heal. And then we're just going to continue our bunny hop as normal. And this is where I say like back paddles and stuff are going to make certain movements easy, and bunny hopping is probably one of them. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead with that, and you'll see as I come out of the slide jump, I'm going to hit up to start healing and then continue into the bunny hop. But before we do any of that, we do need to activate Octane's stim, which is why this is only possible with Octane to keep that forward momentum and velocity.
It's go time. 小心点把鞋。
So as you can see, it's not as rapid as a normal bunny hop as you would be able to do with Octane, but if you stim and just bunny hop in general, you can see how much more speed we actually get. Now, out of the bunny hops, we get way more velocity and speed.
照说我们剩下的全部都是那个下次
不用讲，不用讲，这个比勒赛的是。 现在刚看那个钢面就知道这个是了，他冲过去要干嘛？后面又没人把，又没在后面跟上。
Height is absolutely huge in Apex.
他对 T29 跟 KB 上也不会玩
In a movement guide, we are going to be talking
不是啊，中坦线跑去中坦线干嘛？中坦的也不来，也不 cover 一下中间路。
on your enemies quite easily. However, there's certain things we can do and certain tips you should know about climbing in general. The first thing I just want to talk about is you can actually sort of rotate and swing yourself around climbing points. And as you'll see on screen now, I'm climbing one of the main buildings in World's Edge, but you can sort of turn your aim essentially and climb around certain poles and areas that you might have thought you might not be able to climb. And in doing so, this does open a lot of different spots around the map. And World's Edge notoriously has a lot of climbing spots, and there are certain things that you can actually latch onto and climb onto, and this gives you sort of an advantage because it means you can climb even higher and enables you to sneak up on some enemies. As you can see, one of the main buildings in World's Edge that everyone seems to go to, with the zipline in the middle, you can actually climb up the side, and I don't think many people know this, but it's a pretty cool trick. There's a few of these around the World's Edge map, so be sure to experiment with this and have a go at climbing some of the buildings yourself. So there's just one thing I wanted to slot in here which I did miss, so I've come back to it, and it is going to be death box looting. Although on the controller you can actually move while you're looting, we can actually jump and loot at the same time, which sounds weird. It's not as great as you would think, but it does kind of help in those quick situations you might need a quick armor swap. So all you need to do here, again, practice this, it'll all come down to timing. What you need to do is start opening the loot box, and then as that's getting close to the end and about to open, hit your loot button, and then jump. It just gives you that extra second of maybe putting you out of danger, so when someone does have a shot on you, they might not land all their shots, and it just enables you to get obviously this will just be practice and you'll get better over time, but I thought it was worth mentioning. So the next technique we're going to talk about is wall bouncing, and there's actually two separate wall bounces you can do. So one of them does include a slide jump, and one of them you don't have to do from sliding either. So we're going to cover both as this is a movement guide. So the first one we're going to start with is a slide jump. And what we're going to do is we're going to slide and then jump off the wall. Now, we don't want to be too close to the wall. As we're approaching the wall, we want to jump, and then we want to let go of pushing forward, and then jump once more once we hit the wall. Once we land on the wall, we want to jump again. So all we're going to do is run, slide jump, and as we hit the wall, let go, don't touch your left stick, and then we're going to jump as we hit the wall, and that should send it flying. And you want to do this at a slight angle, nothing too crazy. We don't need to be at like a 90-degree angle to the wall, but you'll just get a general feel. Around 20-30 degrees is kind of what we're looking for, and we're just going to slide jump into it and then jump off, as you'll see on the hand cam there. And there we go. That's your wall bounce.
我决定我
So
要
you
黑
can
到
actually wall bounce sort of over things as well. So if we hit this post
需要我
like
开关
more
吗？
head
还
on,
是我继
we
续
can
不用
slide
不
jump
用
into
你就
that
继续练也
and
是
get over the
没
post.
差。
So we need to
不
push
是要
forward
回到
immediately after hitting that
既
jump,
然他们想要
and
这
then
样
we'll be
玩
able
的
to get
话，
over that post and use that to sort of climb over walls a little quicker. This will just skip this little climbing animation,
没把他们
and
卖
it just
掉，
feels
他
a
们
little
倒是
nice
把我
and
卖
saves
掉
you。all those precious milliseconds while being chased by the thirsty people in the lobby. So all we're going to do is just going to slide jump into the wall and then let go and push forward as we hit the bounce. And there we go. It sort of skips the climbing animation, but I mean, it doesn't, I don't know if it actually saves that much time, but there you go. Just something useful to know. Now, you can also wall bounce without slider jumping into the wall as well, so we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to run into it and then wall bounce off. Now, you don't get as much momentum as you can tell, but you still get enough so that you can do a little wall bounce. And if you want to be cool about it, if you want to be clever, you can actually just jump off and then slide back to gain a little more momentum than you normally would from your wall bounce. And if you don't hit a rock, you'll actually gain more momentum than I was saying. But you can just slide out of those to obviously increase the travel distance and the distance you actually gain from the wall bounce. So the next thing we're going to talk about is actually zipline jumping, and the first one I want to start with is just vertical zipline boosting. This stuff's pretty simple, and you can either slide jump into this or run and jump into this, and all we're going to do is run, tap square, and then hit jump on the other end before we even start climbing up the zipline, and it's just going to give us that little boost when we get off the
只是要
zipline.
去哪里
So
飞？
that's all it is. And as you can see, we get a little
可
momentum
惜
boost.
啊！
If you're running away from someone, it might just help you get over that wall or something. It's nothing too crazy, but you can actually build on this. So the next part we're going to talk about is just 180s on zip lines, which can be quite cool just to throw your enemy off. Or if you're going the zip lines in one's edge and all that kind of business, if you want to look cool and throw your enemies off a little.
主要是城堡会看中间。
But all we're going to do is we're going to run and jump at the zip line. We're going to hold square the entire time. So we're going to run and jump at it. As we hit it, we're going to jump off again. We're going to pull back on the left stick so we hover over the zip line. It stops our momentum traveling forward. Still holding square, we're going to do a 180 and then jump off this side, and then we're going to land back where we were. And you can slide jump in and out of that if you want to, or you can just jump in and out of it. It's entirely up to you. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm sure as you see it, it will make more sense. But this pulling back on the left stick will just sort of hover us in the air, stop our momentum going forward, and make it a little easier to grab that zipline for the second time. And then we can slide jump out of that and bunny hop and whatever you want to do really. But you can do that multiple times. It's just about how much you can sort of hold on to the zipline, I guess, and how quick you are with your fingers. But you can just keep doing these 180s for as long as you really want to, I guess. Sometimes they might not even be 180s, but you can just catch your enemies off guard, I suppose, with those. So the next thing I want to talk about is zipline super jumping, and this is pretty simple. It all just comes down to timing.
我超放血。
All we're going to do is hit square to ride the zipline. Then in quick succession, we're just going to hit our jump twice really fast. And this will just boost us in the air a lot higher than we'd normally be able to get with a zipline jump. And as you can see, just getting the timing right eventually take a bit of practice, but like I say, having that jump button on a different button compared to X makes things a little easier. Specifically, if you're sort of away from someone and you need to zipline jump over something or just throw your enemies off guard. It does make it a little easier if you're slightly to the left or right of the zipline rather than directly underneath it. I'm not sure why, but it does seem to make it a little easier. But as you can see, we get a huge height boost, and it all just comes down to how fast you can press that jump button. Really, double time, double tapping that jump button. I'm getting so muddled by my words, but as you can see, if you don't do it fast enough, you just kind of get stuck on the zip line. So practice that in the firing range. Just get Paffy, get his ult, and give that a go for yourself. So you can also do something called a zipline hyper jump, and this was some recent movement tech found by Moki Sniper, and he's huge in the Apex movement community, and I'd highly recommend you check out his full depth breakdown. But just to cover it in this guide, as of course this is a movement guide and we are doing it on controller, I just want to show you it is possible on controller, although it is very, very hard. And it does take a lot of time and a lot of getting used to. I've only managed to do it a handful of times, and of course I've managed to capture one of those. So I'm just going to teach you how to sort of do it and how you need to be going about this. But like I say, if you want a full guide, check out Moki Sniper for that. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do the zipline super jump. So you're going to hit square, jump, jump really fast, and then once you're in the air, you also then want to press square and then jump again. But you only press jump once this time, and in doing so it launches you into the air even higher than the super jump, as you can see, and it's just kind of crazy. Like it's all down to time, and it will take a long time and a lot of practice to really get to grips with this. But have a go yourself, see if you can replicate it. I'd love to know how you guys get on with this. So do let me know in the comments below if you manage to make it to the zipline hyper jumps, how you've sort of found it. So just going to cover some stuff over the jump pad. I've covered this on my Octane guide, but I thought I'd cover it here. Is technical movement stuff. It all involves the first thing we're going to talk about is air strafing. Now this is really simple.
只是2图还好，因为它的视角是跟着你的。
If you wanted to know more about Pathfinder, you can view my Pathfinder guide where I cover all of this grapple and involved with that to maximise your distance.
那你的那个利亚雀怎么办？
Anyway, with air strafing, it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is we're going to hit the pad, and as we're in the air, we're going to turn our stick slightly one way, or so left or right, and then our left stick is just going to follow that direction, sort of curving around in an arc, kind of like this sort of movement. But we're just going to do that as we hit the jump pad, and you'll see we sort of just travel round rather than landing in a straight line, and maybe makes it a little easier to get away from those enemies that could be chasing us. So it just enables you to get some distance. Of course, I didn't double jump there. But what you can do with a double jump is also change the
我们开
direction
都
you're
没有
going
开
to
到南
really
瓜
throw
岛
people
我
off.
去
So
开
again,
我
I'm
救
just
了
going to
大
do
概
an
在
air
之
strike,
前
and
我
then
发
I'm
现
going
它
to
有开到南瓜
double
岛
jump to use the double jump to change my direction pretty
我们都
quickly.
没有开到南
Now
瓜
you
岛
don't have to use double jump to change directions, but it just adds that little extra height and makes things a little easier. I'm just going to hit that jump. And it might make things a little easier in certain situations, but that's just the basics of air strafing, and you can obviously do that with anyone on a pad. It doesn't have to be Octane at all. While we've got the pad out, there's just something else I want to cover, and this is just the direction you go in when hitting the jump pad. Like, you don't actually have to just go forward a bit. If you melee and then move the direction in which you want to go, you'll actually travel in that direction. And if you only melee onto the pad, you'll actually just end up using it as a trampoline, which can be quite fun. Again, I covered it in my Octane guide, but if you just do a melee and
什么东西很好赚钱？那个硬币也要有开到才
to
有
get。feet.
然后我走在哪边试试会被卡到哪边。
Sorry.
哦，是哦，我又
But if we melee and say pull backwards, we should end up flying backwards.
他被那个没有，是那个 T2615为了保 P44，然后放在那个保那个不要被我们家洛伊打死，结果 P4直接卡在那里面。